There were 3 women on that ship. You already know about 2 of them. The one with red hair who told the captain he deserved to die, and the one they called James, who turned out not to be James at all. The third one nobody talks about. That is you. The court records at Spanish Town say you were hanged on the 18th of November, 1720. The court records are wrong. You were not hanged. You slipped out of a side door in the dark, and you walked away. And you have been dead on paper ever since. This is what it was actually like, rank by rank, to sail on Anne Bonny's crew, to fight in her raids, to drink at her table, and to hide in the hold the night she needed you most. You have never told anyone this story. You are telling it now because you are dying, and you are tired of carrying it. Rank 1, the deckhand. You are 22. You signed on to Calico Jack's sloop in Nassau in the spring of 1719. You were not looking for adventure. You were looking for work that paid. You had been on merchant ships for 4 years, and merchant ships paid badly and treated you worse. The pirate articles were read to you on the dock at Nassau. You voted yes. So did everyone else. You had heard of Calico Jack. Everybody in Nassau had heard of Calico Jack. You had not heard of Anne Bonny. You meet her on your second day aboard. She is sitting on a coil of rope at the stern, mending a sail, and she looks up at you when you pass and says nothing. Her hair is loose and red, and she is clearly not trying to hide that she is a woman. You say good morning. She says good enough. That is the first and last time Anne Bonny will say anything friendly to you in the first 6 months. Your job is to work. You haul lines. You mend canvas. You man the guns when they practice firing. You eat at the common table and sleep in the forecastle and receive your full share when the ship takes a prize. You take 6 prizes in your first 3 months. A Spanish merchant, 2 English sloops, a small French brig, and 2 fishing boats out of Jamaica that you feel bad about. The fishermen were not wealthy. They could not afford to lose their boats. You keep that thought to yourself. There is a second woman on the ship, a sailor called James Reed. James Reed is wiry and quiet and extremely competent with a blade. You notice early on that James Reed's hands are not a man's hands. You do not say anything. It is Nassau. It is 1719. You have seen stranger. 3 months later, James Reed saves your life on the deck of a captured Jamaican sloop by putting a pistol ball into a man who was about to put a blade into your back. James Reed does not mention it afterward. You do not mention it either. You owe James Reed your life. You know it. James Reed knows it. That is enough. You go on your first proper raid in September of 1719. A Spanish merchant out of Havana, heavy with sugar and silver. Anne Bonny boards first. You have seen people board before. You have never seen anyone board the way she boards. She goes across the ropes without hesitation, both feet moving, a cutlass in one hand and a pistol in the other. And she is on the enemy deck before half the crew has left your own rail. You follow. You keep up. You are terrified, and you keep up, and that is enough. Afterward, in the cabin of the captured Spanish ship, you find a small brass button on the floor near the captain's table. You do not know how it got there. You put it in your pocket. You will keep it for the rest of your life. You do not know that yet. Anne Bonny is not who the stories say she is. The stories say she was wild and violent and reckless. She was not reckless. She was one of the most deliberate people you have ever seen on a ship. Every move she made was calculated. The wildness was a choice. What she was, more than anything else, was someone who had decided she was not going to live the life that had been decided for her, and she was going to keep deciding that every single day until someone stopped her. In London, a Royal Navy captain named Jonathan Barnett has just received his commission to hunt pirate vessels in Caribbean waters. You have 1 year left. Rank 2, the border. You are 23. You are part of the boarding party now. You cross first. You carry a cutlass and a flintlock and a knife in your boot, and you know how to use all three. You have killed 4 men, 3 in fights and 1 in a boarding, where you did not mean to, where your blade went somewhere you did not intend it to go. That 4th one stays with you differently than the others. You know the 3 women on this ship now by their real names. Anne Bonny. You know she grew up in South Carolina and was married to a man she despised and left him for Calico Jack and has not looked back once. Mary Reed. James Reed is Mary Reed, and you find this out not from Mary but from Anne, who tells you one night as if she is giving you a piece of information you might find useful. You might, she says. You never know. And yourself. 3 women on a ship of 30 pirates, and not one of those 30 men will ever know about the 3rd one. You and Anne Bonny find something like respect for each other in the 2nd year. Not friendship, she does not do friendship easily, and neither do you. But you work the same way. You are both quiet before a boarding and loud during it. You both clean your weapons the same evening after a fight. You both sit at the rail in the hour before dawn when the rest of the crew is asleep and watch the water. One night she sits down beside you at the rail and says, "You are not afraid of any of this, are you?" You say, "I am afraid of all of it." She says, "Good. The ones who say they are not afraid are the ones who get everyone killed." She goes back to her hammock. You stay at the rail until dawn. Calico Jack is not a bad captain. He is simply a diminishing one. He was bold in 1718. By 1720, he is drinking more than he used to, and taking fewer prizes than he used to, and spending more time at anchor in coves along the Jamaican coast than out in open water where the money is. Anne Bonny notices. Mary Reed notices. You notice. None of you say anything to each other, because saying it would make it real, and none of you are ready for it to be real yet. Captain Jonathan Barnett is sailing south in a well-armed sloop. He has 12 guns. He has a commission from the governor of Jamaica. He has orders to bring in Calico Jack dead or alive, and he is very good at following orders. You are anchored in Negril Bay, Jamaica. It is October of 1720. The crew has been drinking since noon. It is now almost midnight. You are one of only 4 people on this ship who are not drunk. Rank 3. The crew regular. The last good weeks of this crew are in August and September of 1720. You take 3 prizes. You visit Tortuga. You eat well. You sleep on deck under clear nights, and the water is warm, and there is enough money to feel easy about the future, even though you know, the way you always know things slightly before they happen, that something is about to end. Anne Bonny teaches you a card game one evening. You play badly. She beats you with complete patience and no mercy. You play for 3 hours and lose every hand. At the end of the 3rd hour, she says you are much better at this than you were at the start. That is the closest Anne Bonny will ever come to a compliment. You know this, you take it. Mary Reed tells you her real story once, and only because you ask, and only because you have told her yours first. She listens to your story without interrupting, and then she tells you hers. The Dutch Army, the dead husband, the years of passing, not just on this ship, but before this ship, most of her adult life, spent being someone she was not, and choosing it, and being genuinely good at it, and still not being sure if she would choose it again. You say, would you? She thinks about it for a long time. She says, yes, but I would choose it faster. All the hesitation was wasted time. On the night of the 22nd of October, 1720, Barnett's sloop enters Negril Bay under darkness. The watch is drunk. The captain is drunk. 26 of the 30 men on your ship are drunk or asleep or both. The rum has been flowing since noon, and nobody thought to worry about a Royal Navy sloop finding you at anchor here. Anne Bonny is the first one on her feet. You hear her before you see her, her voice cutting through the dark from the direction of the stern, where she always sleeps. She is screaming at the crew to get up. She is not afraid, she is furious. Barnett's sloop fires a warning shot. The ball passes through the rigging above the deck. You hear it go. The drunk men below stir but do not come up. Anne Bonny screams at the hatch. She says if you will not fight like men, then get out of the way and let the women do it. Nobody comes up, and this is the moment. The moment you have spent 50 years trying to find a way to explain. You do not go up either. What happens next? You know only from what you heard and what you were told afterward. Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and one other crewman who was sober enough and brave enough to stand. 3 people against 30 of Barnett's sailors. They hold the deck for nearly 10 minutes. Mary Read fires her pistol down the hatch at the drunk men below. You hear the shot. You feel the air move. She would rather wound her own crew than let them hide. You stay below. Your hands are shaking. You are not afraid of Barnett's sailors. You are afraid of a different thing, the name of which you will not learn for another 10 years. Rank 4. The survivor in the hold. You do not go up. There are 26 men below you who also do not go up. You are one of 27 people making the same choice. You know this. It does not help as much as you think it should. Anne Bonny goes down first, a musket ball through the thigh. She stays on one knee for another full minute before she goes down properly. You hear her go down. The deck above you changes, sound the one voice that was holding everything together goes quiet. Mary Read is last. She is fighting with her side bleeding and one pistol empty, and she is still slashing when they take her. You hear the scuffle stop. You hear boots on the deck. You hear Barnett's men shouting at each other in the particular way. Soldiers shout when a fight has ended, and they are trying to account for the living. You hear Calico Jack drunk, dragged up from somewhere, barely coherent being questioned on deck. You hear him give names. You do not hear him give yours. In the confusion of the arrests, when Barnett's men are moving people from the sloop to their own vessel, you find a moment. A side hatch, low at the waterline, that leads to a small space used for storing line. You squeeze through it. You lower yourself into the dark, warm Caribbean water. You swim. The shore of Jamaica is perhaps 200 yards away. You swim it in the dark, without making a sound, while behind you the sloop is being taken, and the people you have sailed with for 2 years are in chains. You pull yourself up onto the sand. You lie there for a while. Then you get up and you walk inland and you do not look back. The trial is at Spanish Town in November. You do not attend, but you are close enough to Jamaica that you hear things in the weeks that follow. Calico Jack, hanged at Port Royal in November, his body displayed in an iron cage on a small island at the harbor entrance as a warning. Anne Bonny, spared because she is pregnant, released into the custody of her family in South Carolina. You read this last part in a letter someone passes to you. You read it 3 times. You do not know what to feel about it. She was spared. She is alive. The letter does not say what happens next, and you never find out. Mary Read, sentenced to hang, died in prison of fever before they could carry out the sentence. Her child died with her. You sit with that for a long time. The Spanish Town Court records list you among the crew members hanged on the 18th of November. You are not dead, but you are not who you were either. Rank 5. The witness. You make your way to Charlestown, South Carolina. It takes 4 months. You travel by fishing boat and on foot and by hired wagon. You give a different name at every stop. By the time you reach Charlestown, you have had 6 names and you are ready to have one final one. You give yourself a last name from a town you passed through in Jamaica and a first name that belonged to a woman you admired once. A long time ago, before all of this, You become her, completely and permanently. You never use your old name again. Charlestown in 1721 is a prosperous colonial city. Ships come and go. People arrive from everywhere with no past and build a present. Nobody asks too many questions if you work hard and keep your head down and pay your debts on time. You work in a shop that sells navigational instruments. The owner is a retired sea captain who does not ask where you learned to read charts. He simply notes that you can and puts you to work. You are good at this. You are good at a lot of things that you cannot explain without explaining where you learned them. You marry a widower with 2 young daughters in 1723. He is kind and steady, and nothing like anyone you have ever sailed with. You find this is exactly what you need. You tell him one thing that is true. You tell him you were on a ship that was raided by the Royal Navy, and that you escaped, and that you do not want to talk about it. He says then, "We will not talk about it." He keeps that promise for 31 years until the day he dies. You die in Charlestown in 1773. You are 76 years old. You outlived Calico Jack by 53 years. You outlived Mary Read by 52 years. You outlived Bartholomew Roberts by 51 years. You outlived the golden age of piracy by more than half a century. You raised 2 stepchildren and 3 children of your own. You worked in the navigation shop for 19 years, and then you owned it for another 11 after that captain died. You paid taxes. You went to church. None of your children ever knew what you were. None of your neighbors, not one person in Charlestown, knew that the woman who ran the navigation shop on Broad Street had once been listed in a Spanish town court record as hanged for piracy. You thought about Anne Bonny for 53 years. You thought about her the night they told you she had been spared. You thought about her the morning you opened the navigation shop and saw a ship in the harbor flying colors that reminded you of something you could not name. You thought about her every October on the anniversary of Negril Bay when the weather turned and the nights got long. You never found out what became of her after the trial. She went back to South Carolina. She had her child, and then she disappeared from every record that has ever been kept. You understand that. You disappeared from the records too. The difference is that the records say you died and say nothing about her. You wonder sometimes which of you got the better deal. The day you die, your youngest daughter is going through a small wooden box you kept in the drawer of your writing desk for 54 years. Inside the box, there is one item. A small brass button, plain, unremarkable. The kind of button that fastens a coat. You found it on the floor of a captured Spanish merchant ship in September of 1719. You put it in your pocket without knowing why. You have carried it through 4 months of island hopping, a swim in the dark Caribbean, 6 assumed names, a new life in Charlestown, 53 years of a quiet existence, and 2 separate identities. Your daughter holds it up and looks at it and cannot imagine why you kept it. It was never Anne Bonny's button. You never told anyone it was. You just kept it because you were there, and she was there, and both of you survived, and the button was proof of a version of yourself that nobody in this house has ever met. You never told anyone that. You just kept the button. Before the mast. Next time. The slave ship that became a pirate ship. West Africa. 1719. Subscribe. The tide is turning.